like to know that
First you give your
I'm PS Mitra. I'm from Tata Steel R&D Jamshedpur. Madam, I would just like to know, do you have any website for your organization?
This work is not up on our website because it's still the ITR. The work belongs to NIF.
No, actually this is techpedia.in. All great.
Not,
Grid.
yeah, the grids.
Okay, grids.
Grids is
Yeah,
what
grids
I
is, grid activity we are just initiating. It is to set up a, design studio at some premier institutes so that the faculties and students can come and work on the grassroots innovations. Grassroots innovation design studio.
For example, if I would like to get in touch with you in future, if it is needed, then what is the way?
You send a mail to me and then I'll...
through an email.
I can show you the work later. I have.
And what they are doing in Shetty School of Design, Arts and Technology, you just write to Nandini and then see the response.
Madam, to your point of how do we motivate students to get more and more involved in the activities and keep them away from the dirty hand syndrome. That is the biggest challenge. I think most of the technical community is facing that within their employees as well, within the students community as well. There are few things which we can actually do on demonstrative scale which I feel could be helpful. Few of them like having workshops, poster sessions where we actually don't have the dirty hand syndrome creeping into them, and then within those forums keep some awards on conceptualization. So if we find that some poster comes which is very promising, then probably we can actually fund it or seed fund it. Funding it through and through would be difficult, but seed fund it to see and encourage students. And those are some of the elements.
There is the problem, no? The concept is not the students. The concept is coming from the innovator. And the focus should be on the innovation. See, if we want this whole thing to move forward, we need more success stories. We need one innovation to go out and make it in whatever way. I mean, it could be commercially, it could be socially in a community, but we need to take it much further.
Basically, I understand and anticipate these challenges to be actual and practical. But essentially, to start with, let's not get too much overcarried with the concept that we want grassroots innovators to innovate for us. It can be students who are enabled, isn't it? It's like most of the student community is much more involved because of their parents, and if they show interest, parents will definitely get dragged. Most of the students, institutes like you are having, would have their parents much more enabled in the society, technically skilled plus financially sound. So leveraging that resource and then probably translating it as a backward innovation towards this community and then enable grassroots would be a, say, side way to it rather than actually concentrating on enablement of grassroots and surfacing it to a level.
No, actually it is already there for school children, the activity Ignite, where the students up to class 12 can give their ideas and these grids will work on them. And for technological students, the techpedia is there. So we are already focusing on students innovation.
Sure, definitely. So some similar efforts could definitely see much more innovative motivation.
I am Dr. Bhotia, Dean Agriculture Engineering. My question is to Professor Aggarwal. Not a question but a request to him that, sir, today morning, just one thing I will tell. Today morning, I had time I visited the library, and while the library was closed, I was seeing the new arrivals of iron. I surprised and became happy also. The new books, 90% are on agriculture and agriculture sector, not on industry and being industrialization, what we talk in at IIM. I became happy like anything. So similarly, I want to request Professor Aggarwal also. We are agriculture engineering at Naga, and we have very good projects all types of engineering we can apply in agriculture, and slowly it is coming up. Why don't we collaborate on these student aspects, project aspects? We are doing something for innovators, but if like we get more technical experts from the other electronics and these things, we can do the blenders in that area. Our college, for your information, this year our college stands 5th in whole Gujarat through engineering success review. Though it is not recognized in your university maybe, but we stand 5th in all engineering, not only in agriculture, all engineering in Gujarat.
Okay, Dr. Shetty, this is something which is very welcome. And in fact, even last year, this was something which could have been done by any student. Because as I said, we are wanting to collaborate with all elements of the society. And right now we have taken up 75 projects in the villages. And therein, I guess, a number of students are going to come across problems which are related to agriculture. So we do expect that as we get deeper into this pilot study, we will require a lot of help, probably from agricultural engineering. In fact, you are located at Naga. I'll ask the Sankull chair at Naga to get in touch with you. Oh, you are here. Then the best Rajesh is also there.
I know him personally, but we didn't.
Yeah. So what we can do is we have with Vyas Dwivedi, so he is the chair. So I'll ask him to get in touch with you, so that you can also be brought into our Sankull committee.
Okay. So I'm Professor Jemba from Kashmir. My query again with Professor Aggarwal. I would like to know, sir, about the IPR policy of your university. For example, a student has just conceptualized an idea, an innovation. He works on it, but he cannot work it independently. He has to have a supervisor, and then he has to use your infrastructure. And finally, when he delivers a product, what is the IPR policy? How will the patent be shared, and what are the implications of any benefits, commercial benefits going to whom?
I think this is a very good question, Dr. Patil, and every institution will have to solve this particular question according to the circumstances in which they operate. As far as GTU is concerned, this first crop of patents that are there are essentially at the colleges. Because right now GTU bubbles are still to be set up. We are still in the process of building GTU buildings and all that. So therefore we do not have any laboratories and other things of our own. They will be coming up during this year. So in this particular case, the IPR obviously will be shared between the student, the supervisor, the college, and industry. And we have left it to the colleges to decide about the kind of policy they want to have. The university is going to have its own IPR cell, and we are going to have a policy for the projects which are done within the university premises. Right now, we are only working with our colleges as partner institutions, and therefore it is the colleges which have to essentially deal with this problem.
I think the tool of Wikipedia, the power of that we have to understand. It's amazing the way it started. And I want to provoke all the people here how to make it widespread in the country, in institutions and industries. Though there might NIH is doing something, but it's not gone to many colleges. I come from Andhra Pradesh. I have not seen Wikipedia as being utilized the way it could have been utilized and got the benefit. I think what's happening is what example that Aggarwal has said, success story has to be told in a very big way, in the biggest forum, maybe the UGC or whatever the level it is. Maybe HRD needs to take a cue from yourself and then spread and make it a mandatory for many colleges to do such things. Originality building up is the basic premise of tech media, and this country needs it badly. And I think there's no debate for us that why should be promoted to the fastest speed. Our generation, next generation has to be as original as possible. And that comes up only when all of us as parents, teachers, industry, or wherever we are in our position to promote such database, which is so easily can be done with the IT systems available. I think industry should come and start using it. The teachers, the parents, everyone should start taking it, and maybe some award should come in this where the industry uses it, Wikipedia a lot, they should be given some kind of a rating. The involvement of all of us, the stakeholders, is very important. I think I'll ask the students here to respond to how do we really take Wikipedia forward in the mindset of the students in the colleges. We may give chance to more students to talk about Wikipedia.
Let us invite more suggestions how to make Techpedia more effective. In other states also. Gujarat has given, one very wonderful example, GTU, but we have to implement in other technological universities also. So let us listen from.
Hello, Chandrasekhar. Myself is Chandrasekhar. So thank you for your very great presentation, especially for Techpedia. So I want to give a suggestion that related to the pharmacy. Presently in India, we don't have any drug database. We have reliable on 2 drug databases from US. One is Micromedics, one is lower drug database. These are subscribing from US. But still, there is no a single online subscribing drug database from India. So this is an advantage that Indian means whatever the drug database which is there in US, they have studied all the drug databases in the US patient populations. But Indian population, there are reports in hospital-wise, but it is not converted into a database and it is not reached to anywhere. So it is localized in the hospital itself. In primary healthcare centers, secondary healthcare centers, tertiary healthcare centers, there are a lot of drug-related databases related to adverse effects and their beneficial users and harmful users. So a lot of database should show the life of the drug, when should be used, when it should not be used. So these type of databases for the creating through the Techpedia will be helpful for the most of the doctors, means healthcare personnel, doctors, nurse, pharmacists, even for the ultimately for the patients.
Hi, my name is Salmi. I work for the United States Agency for International Development. I have a question and a couple of comments just about the experiential learning component of what we're talking about here and what the overall purpose is. I think that there needs to be some clarification, in terms of is the purpose to teach methodology, to ask, sophisticated questions, and then develop a methodology and then go out and as a learning experience. Or is it that there is this directed intent to connect universities and industries so that to form a partnership? And I think I think that there are 2 distinct kind of modes of learning and approaches, and that it just wouldn't happen. And so and to a certain extent, I guess like a kind of a general observation about some of the sessions is that there's a lot of assumptions that things will just happen, innovations will diffuse, but actually like the diffusion and even the incubation is something that takes a lot of energy and a lot of work, and the mechanics of how that works actually takes an incredible amount of thought. And so then that's kind of like one comment and question is, what is the general purpose? And from one of your slides, there was a relatively high uptake of the innovations in industry. So then in that case, has there been an analysis of what are the types of uptakes that have taken place where you can code the innovations to say this is an innovation that's like a complete product versus like that addresses a specific problem, to be able to understand what that linkage is between the innovation and what the industry uptake is. And so, yeah, so then so overall my general comment is that that oftentimes innovations aren't necessarily like an entire product, right? So a bicycle that cleans the street, or a seesaw that washes machines or whatever it may be, a machine that takes out the pomegranate seeds. Oftentimes, like major innovations are actually just addressing one very specific bottleneck. So for example, like one of the questions that we ask ourselves in USAID, because I work in agriculture, is that there's an incredible amount of milk that's produced in the country. And there's been all sorts of cooperatives, women, small farmers, and so you can go and say all sorts of very feel-good things about the dairy cooperatives here. And India has become the largest dairy producer in the world and is a success. But still, India has an incredible challenge to transport some of that milk, right? And part of it has to do with the refrigeration. So there are kind of local refrigeration mechanisms that are available, but those mechanisms are oftentimes too expensive for the people, the small producers. And so when problems are defined very specifically and ask students, this product exists, what I want you to do is figure out a way that there's this one component of this refrigerator system that's really expensive. We need to make this cheaper so that the women can buy it. Those things end up being revolutionary, much more revolutionary, taken up by industry and also commercialized in a way that maybe whole products oftentimes don't. So I was wondering if you guys had thoughts about those.
I think I'll answer both these issues. The first issue of the things not happening on their own, it is very well taken. And in fact, GQ does not assume that things will happen on their own. There is a lot of energy and work which goes into each of these steps. So you are right, things don't happen on their own. In fact, we have examples from a couple of other technology universities where they have tried to take up the project as it is, and because they waited for things to happen on their own, they did not happen. But anyway, let's not bother about what has happened elsewhere. The fact is that things happen only when you work for them. Secondly, the issue that you have raised of taking up projects for felt needs. You know, the needs should be assessed and the projects must be based upon those needs. That is exactly what we are trying to do. We are trying to send out our students to study what is needed. And therefore, as we get into the habit of becoming a problem solver, you will find that many of the problems that we have not solved for hundreds of years will start getting solved. Because till now, technology has not been used in India for solving our own problems. Technology, education has gone ahead and been used for running the factories and other products, other institutions, which have already come up on the basis that similar institutions exist outside. So let's say we have a factory which is producing electric bulbs. Such things existed outside. We have transplanted them over here and we are working for that. So those are the kind of things we have been doing. So all engineering in India is essentially to work for things which have already happened elsewhere. We have not really used our technology to solve our own problems because we have refused to recognize the problems and then to solve. Therefore, detection of a problem, looking at the situation and saying, well, I know this part of technology, so my technology can solve the problem and I can design a solution. These are the things which have been missing from the scene. So you are very right. We should look at the needs and then try to have projects which are based upon solving those needs. That is exactly what we are trying to do. Yes, please.
Manjunath from Bangalore. So regarding updating this Wikipedia, since you are representing a Vice Chancellor chair in a university, and you can put the same word in the AICCIG so that other things can be communicated to other universities. Since I am from VTU, Shetty Technological University, definitely I would discuss that put the word in the AICD and other councillors meeting. And this will be fruitful for all engineering institutions.
You're right, we have been trying to tell these things not only to AICD but also to DTU wherever possible. And then it is up to DTU. You see, we have been in fact inviting the vice chancellors of all the technology universities to DTU. So it has been a constant endeavor to bring them over here, to learn from them, and then to see if they find anything useful that we are doing. So this is a continuous process. But the thing is, you cannot force things on others. Right? It is only like, you can force probably things within a system. Like we have created a system where there are credits associated with the products. There are credits associated with finding a problem, defining the problem, and then solving the problem. So that is what we could do within the system. But then, from one system to the other, it has to go by a process of osmosis. It cannot go by a process of force.
Yes, the AICD can mandate all the engineering institutions to update their final year projects into that.
Well, if they do so, that will be great. But as far as DTU is concerned, we are trying to see that all our projects are uploaded on.
Because nowadays each and every details AICD is asking to enter it on the online. So similarly, if it is done, it will be useful.
You are very right. The AICD till now looks at buildings and all such data. Till now they have not yet come to academic data. So as and when their attention is diverted from the infrastructure towards academics, probably what you are saying will happen. Yes,
Good morning, sir.
Yes, please. You know someone over there, yes.
You want to ask?
I'm a retired teacher in botany. Sir, I think I will be heard. Thank you very much. So, sir, I want to point my finger at one another aspect, another counterpart of GGU, that is the pharmacy colleges. A lot has been said about the engineering and technology, very importantly. But all the pharmacy colleges which are under your regime, they have only one part that is called pharmacognosy. And except that, very little attention has been paid over the research on the medicinal plants, which is inherent knowledge existing in India. And there is a very big potential. I just want to briefly, I will mention about this, that all our Ayurvedic literature, if you combine together all the compendia, the Vriddhatariva, Charak, Shushruta and Varpat, the total number of plants are not exceeding more than 650 or so. And only in Gujarat, when that document on the medicinal plants of the state has been created by Gir Foundation at Gandhinagar, now this has a mention of nearly 1275 species, only in Gujarat. If you consider the whole country, the number goes in thousands. Out of nearly 46,000 species occurring in India, including flowering and non-flowering, nearly 30,000 species of India are having medicinal potential as suggested by the tribal people. Tribal people are using some of that. And that is not a part of the Ayurveda. I tell you that there is something more. When a pharmacist look at the pharmacognosy and the pharmaceutical part of the medicinal plants, normally the attention is paid over a single molecule. The history of single molecule says that whenever a single molecule is separated out and then when you have introduced in a medicine system, they lose their activity after some time. Or most of the time, they have a lot of side effects. You may take a quinine, you may take a penicillin, or any antibiotic for that matter, they are of the plant origin, or even digoxin, or any other. There is a big list where the basis is a plant from where the single molecule is separated out, and then it is put to use, the side effects are more. Or even a windkistin, windblastin, or taxol, which are used on cancers. But when you use a drug as a whole, the side effects are minimized, the results are better. Only thing is the dose has to be given at a slightly higher level. So probably, if the pharmaceutical colleges are paying some more, say, the attention over standardizing the plant-based drugs, which are to be used as a whole, and then if you come up with the more drugs, perhaps that would be good to the science and to the humanity, because there is a big list of the diseases again which are either to considered as uncurable, and most of the time they are treated only with the painkillers. So I think this is just my appeal to the GTU to take up some projects. If there is any help needed from the botany side, we can help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, to bring this particular issue forward. Actually, GTU has set up an incubator for Ayurvedic medicine. But what you have said is true, that all the plants are not really covered in the old almanacs which have been there, with us. The trouble is that we are not ready either to read or to experiment. For example, there are plants which have particular properties if they are plucked at a particular period of time. If you pluck them at a different period, the properties, the chemical properties within the plant also change. So there are a number of issues which are required to be studied in great detail, and we are wanting that our pharmaceutical people should take up these projects and study. You are very correct. Today there is a fad for molecules. So they are in fact looking at each one of the Ayurvedic medicines and trying to isolate a molecule which would do the job. So that is the present fad in research. But what you are saying has a lot of value. And I hope when our research work starts becoming innovative and where we believe in our own work and not in a work which is a derivative of the work done elsewhere. There is no harm in doing that. But then you should also have your own creativity. Then the kind of things that you are saying will happen. As far as GTU is concerned as an organization, its job is to create an environment of research, an environment of creative thinking. That I think we are trying to do quite well. And for pharmacy, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to create a world-class lab where whatever experiments they want to do, they can do with tools which are no worse than the tools available anywhere in the world. So we are going to invest about 120 crores on that lab. But then it is for our pharmaceutical researchers to use that lab any way they want. Yes, please.
Hello. I'm Professor Prof from IIM Ahmedabad Institute of Information and Technology. 2-3 points I want to touch upon. One is the last issue that was being raised about having database of information related to work being done. Actually, I cannot announce publicly right now, but I'm shifting to another organization. The format is going on. So that organization would create a national level information database related to all the scientific and technological work being done in the country, both at the faculty level, student level, as well as research. That's one thing that I want to share, but I cannot announce publicly right now because formal is coming. Let me come back to my job as a professor. So the two parts I wanted to cover. One was some of our university, in case those of you are not aware, is in Naga, not very far from here. So set up about 11 years back as a private university, single campus private university, non-affiliating, unlike GTU. We started a number of things we experimented with. So I would like to share a few things that we did and what worked and what did not work. And second is my own experience as a faculty member in promoting them. The last one was being made about need-based work being done, projects. I'll share one example of that. What we had done was that in the second semester of our BTech program, the 4-year program, standard 4-year program, we had a design course that was compulsory for all our students. And then following that in the summer, they were supposed, sorry, not summer, the next